most of what was valued by the people on his day. And so when we cling to tradition, we have to recognize that the Buddha himself was quite revolutionary. So it's an open question whether we can create new forms that are really going to be better than the old ones, or whether we simply need to adapt the traditional models as best we can.
We may have one more question to squeeze in. Well, maybe I should give concerned people this.
This works. Thank you.
Yes, I was just very stimulating today, both this morning's panel and this afternoon's panel. This is more of an observation. And to me it seems one question or object for reflection is, the question is, what do we mean by Sangha? Because I've been exposed to many traditions in Asia and now kind of rediscovering the American perspective, so to speak. And what I find very refreshing from what I've heard from the discussion today is how in many different traditions, it's a certain ritual, a certain dress, a certain habit, whether one eats in the evening, so to speak, what language you use, whether you use bells and smells. And then at the same time, what is the male Sangha and what is the female Sangha? And what I find very refreshing is there are also a lot of positive models in the male Sangha. It seems the male Sangha is very organized. They talk to one another quite readily. And so here as we have become very candid about what we need, what we like, what we miss. I also think, and there also I've heard some anger, and I'm grateful that people have brought back openly, because it's better to have it open. Because it just, at least we're working consciously to deal with our needs. And so, try to wrap it up here. So I find it very intriguing. Here in Vietnam is such a fruitful development, 3 different types of Sangha, and yet the women have not yet come together to just talk about the wonderful creation. And so I think there's also a lot of opportunity here. And as some, we may call it email, but I hope that we will use more of the e-female.
So I take this as a comment, right? Is that a question?
It's more of a comment.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you so much for the comment. Oh, okay. There's a question from the back. Gentleman, yes? Yes, go ahead.
我是善男子，可以提问题吗？我想表达一下我对刚刚那个信息。
等一下。He's going to speak in Chinese, so the people who don't understand Chinese, please switch on the channel.
Please be brief too, because we have to go on.
B, channel B, for the English translation. Thank you.
Next discussion group. Okay.
我想不需要放耳机，我可以你讲完我讲成英文，这样子不会那么乱的。I don't think we have to change the headsets. I just translate consecutively because it only takes a couple minutes.
我想就刚刚那个对性的问题就是在提出上修行上的性的那个我们要注意的那个一些差异第一个我觉得在修行上，在出家众来说，第一个被转化的就是说，他并不是保有在家众那种性的渴望，他可能第一个刚刚出家的时候会被转化成饮食上的贪着，这是第一个。第二个就是修行上的性更高一层的，就是可能是在禅定中，他对那些禅定里面的那种舒适非常的贪，他不愿意出来，他就喜欢静坐在那里。 那第三个就是说，大师经典有谈到内处妙乐，那内处妙乐就是它里面的快乐是比性更细，而且更美好的。那我先讲到这里，来翻译一下，等一下我再讲。
Okay, this is I think it's a comment, brother. Number one, he has 3 points. Number one, originally as a lay person, then became
就是我们8苦里面有一个五阴之正苦，那就我的了解，其中之一的就是那个赫尔论的不平衡，就是我在出家中，他比较有时间做专业的修行，可能这边的问题，他男女的这个性不是对他根本不是问题，因为他在静坐里面，它里面赫尔论平衡，他根本不会有那些歧度。那在加重他因为不平衡，他生理自然的反应，他会寻求平衡，所以男生跟女生在一起，他觉得很好，那这是一个很自然的现象。那我要讲的就是说，在感官的那种性来说，对于五阴来说，色、受、想、行、识这5个层次来说，它是属于第2层，就是感官的觉受的方面。那通常静坐禅定比较深的话，它会进入想、行、识这比较更深层的那种里面的喜乐里面。那在这个喜乐里面，它根本就是讲，我们说天人来说，在色界跟无色界，他根本没有欲界的这些期望，因为他觉得这些太粗糙了。所以在修行上的性，我是觉得，并不是我们刚刚所讨论的那么粗糙的东西，而且是更细腻的东西，这些还是值得我们在修行上起入所担心的。
To summarize what he says, because of time is very short, he has 2 more comments. Number one, as a lay person, sometimes you run into the imbalance of your hormone in the body, and you tend to seek the balance between male and female physically. But once you get into the meditation, you may not have this problem anymore because you tend to balance your hormone already. So you don't have to suffer. This is one point. Another point is that we're talking about different levels of the senses. And as a monk or nun, of course, you tend to go into a deeper or higher level of senses. And you are kind of rather relieved from lower senses of as a lay person, so you may not have this serious problem of suffering anymore.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment. And well, thank you. I think we have to move on. And the biological issue for the sexuality problem is we can go on to talk forever, and we have eternal interest on sexuality issues. Okay, so we have some announcement from the organized side, and we're going to divide up to small discussion groups from 3 o'clock to 4. And okay, so announcements, please.
Hello everybody, please remain in your seats for my announcement. It should only take 5 minutes. I'm going to talk about the conclusion of the conference and the tour to make sure that everybody is clear about what's going to happen afterwards. 就是挺中文的人啊，我现在要讲的就是这个会议结束以后，有的人会去台湾的各个岛场看一看，所以这大部分的是这个从外国来的人要知道，所以我不会翻译成中文。如果你也要参与这个就是这个游览的话，你可以来找我啊。After my announcement, we will then split into our discussion groups. Please remain in the same discussion group that you were in previously. And if you were not there yesterday, then you can come to me and we'll have a discussion group, a new discussion. Okay. This conference concludes on the morning of the 17th of July. After that, there will be buses going to Taipei for lunch, and then the tour will start. Everybody who has attended the conference can go on the buses to Taipei, have lunch there, and in the afternoon
go to the National Palace Museum. This is included as part of the conference. There's no fee for this. After we go to the Palace Museum, then the tour that will go to other temples in Taiwan will begin. And not everybody is going to attend that.
我觉得就一直放到这张，就是放到这张。
From all over the world, good evening. Thank you. Thank you. We Museum of World Religions are honored to have this opportunity to present a special program for this conference tonight. In the 21st century, we are glad to see women have been playing a very important role, and you have made a good process in the love and peace activities and movements, as well as the religious. Museum of World Religions is also there being one of you, devoting ourselves in creating love and peace of the human being around the world. In the following, the purpose and spirit of this conference, we would like to share that we have done in these 10 years with you and prepare a film as following.
This is what the Hebrew words at the bottom mean. Let's scroll along.
21世纪 宗教要如何走入人心，而人类要如何才能安心呢？这是世界各教各派都要思考的一件事。
10年前，一位来自台湾的佛教僧侣心道法师，他的心中有个愿景，那就是成立一座能够探索世界各宗教异同的博物馆，来保存神圣的宗教文化遗产。
因为我们每一个宗教都有它的优越感，就会造成彼此的偏见和不尊重。所以我们要彼此慢慢的互相学习、互相认识，互相的能够了解彼此的宗教和它的差异性。
心道法师祖籍云南，1948年出生于缅甸。15岁听闻观世音菩萨圣号，兴起度众的悲愿。25岁出家后，修习头陀苦行，日中1时，居踵间每日禅坐20小时以上。34岁开始修习断食，在福隆灵鹫山山洞中断食达2年。37岁那年，心道法师复食出关。就像佛陀证悟之时，并无说法之心，但是为了让众生来到灵鹫山，能够领略佛法深刻的内涵，并开启觉悟与理性的生活，于是师父规划了种种志业，开始弘法立身的工作。佛性本无差异，上帝的爱也不会因种族而有差别。欠缺认识与了解所产生的误解，却为人类带来了许多不必要的灾难。秉着爱与和平的理念，主张尊重、包容、博爱。灵鹫山佛教教团在心道法师的带领下，展开了宗教交流与创办世界宗教博物馆的努力。世界宗教博物馆由哈佛大学世界宗教研究中心苏利文博士专案研究 ，RAA 设计公司设计规划。
Well, one spring day, about 3 years ago, the Dharma Master appeared in Soho with some of his followers, came up to our offices and put on the table before us an idea that was a great surprise and a great revelation, because he had a vision for a museum that would attract the international audience, that would be vested with extraordinary artifacts to show the similarity of the world's religions.
RA 总裁奥诺夫是国际顶尖的展览规划设计师，许多世界闻名的设计都是出自他的手笔，包括华盛顿特区的浩劫纪念博物馆，以及纽约自然历史博物馆的化石馆。
Well, it seemed to me both a beautiful idea and an extraordinarily challenging project.
苏利文博士是哈佛大学世界宗教研究中心主任，主要负责博物馆内展示内涵最初的发想。
We have very few places to understand other people's religions. We might understand our own in our own church or mosque or synagogue or temple, but where do we get an adequate understanding of our neighbor's religious beliefs?
We thought that the best way to get all the visitors connected to the story was to put them all through a cleansing experience, one that in fact allows them to wash their hands, to encounter water. And so the very first experience in the museum is to place your hand on a wall of water and let that water just bathe your hand, and then enter a long mist-filled hallway. That's actually a journey, and along that journey you see projected on the walls people on the Hajj, people carrying their saints down a mountain cliffside in Peru.
Each space in the museum represents a different religious evaluation of existence and time. The long entry corridor looks at the long line of chronological history. The circular lobby looks at the recurrent cycles of liturgical time. The Gallery of Life, or the Journey of Life gallery, looks at the life cycle of a human individual, the time of an individual's biological life and the way in which the moments and passages of life are celebrated with ceremonies.
世界宗教博物馆的参观体验将在宗教展示大厅中达到巅峰。它将展出世界上各主要宗教的传统文物，包括基督教、犹太教、回教、佛教、印度教。
This museum, in one place and one time, contains probably the most precious set of ideas that we've ever developed. The thoughts of every great religious leader, the thought of every great religious tradition brought together in one place.
历经了10年的筹备，世界宗教博物馆终于在11月9日隆重开幕。8号开始，来自全球34个国家180位文化界、政治界、宗教界、学术界、新闻界的国际贵宾陆续抵达台湾。为了表示对这些贵宾们的欢迎之意，灵鹫山护法会特别由数百名师姐们身着旗袍，组成一支100人迎宾队伍，整齐地排列在中山路上。用最真诚的笑容与掌声迎接这些远道而来的国际贵宾。将近10点，在前导车的引领下，陈水扁总统也抵达现场，将整个开馆活动的气氛带到了最高潮。在新道法师与陈水扁总统相继进入会场之后，剪彩活动正式揭开序幕。
Master 新道，
在此我们感谢各界对于宗教博物馆的支持，若不是大家无我无私的奉献，这份的理想是无法实现的。大家也无缘在此看到中国的真善美的一个面貌。
包括联合国宗教和平高峰会议秘书长巴瓦金先生、天主教台北总教区总主教狄刚先生、荷兰犹太教的大祭司等各宗教领袖与新道法师、陈总统共同进行剪彩仪式。11月9日不只是中国开馆的纪念日，同时在全球各宗教领袖的共同见证下，由新道法师正式宣布11月9日为世界宗教和谐日。为了庆祝这个重要的日子，在台北国际会议中心举办了一场祈福大会。会中各个宗教代表不但分别上台为人民祈福，还邀请了许多国际知名的表演团体共襄盛举。全球圣基维护国际会议也在宗博开馆当天，在台北圆山饭店隆重登场。世界各大宗教领袖为了表达对新道法师爱与和平理念的支持，上百位各国宗教领袖、学者专家不远千里，首次在台湾齐聚一堂，共同就博物馆与文化圣基保存关系、宗教与文化圣基保存关系以及博物馆与世界宗教的合作关系3项议题进行讨论，场面十分热络。而这也是有史以来全球宗教领袖首次在台湾聚会，其象征的意义不可言喻。 是国际会议，所有与会来宾共同的心愿就是促成世界的爱与和平。在11月10日晚间于圆山大饭店12楼所举办的爱与和平晚宴中，除了邀请环保音乐家马修·连恩现场演唱之外，更有许多代表各个国家、各个宗教的歌舞表演穿插其中，包括飞舞署所表演的敦煌冥想、C 大调室内乐团表演的台湾民谣组曲，以及马来西亚本基舞等等，完整呈现各个宗教、民族的文化之美，充分传达了地球一家的人类理想。为期3天的世界宗教博物馆开幕典礼即将圆满结束。为了让这些远道而来的贵宾们能够有机会欣赏到北台湾独特的自然美景，特别选在灵鹫山无声道场举办闭幕仪式。清新自然的空气、海天一色的美景，加上触目可及的庄严景致，让所有的国际贵宾们忘却尘世喧嚣，流连忘返。
坐落于台北都会区的世界宗教博物馆，将提供密切的宗教交流，与国际各界领袖的频繁互动。在联合国千禧年的世界宗教及精神领袖和平高峰会议，新道法师跟许多世界宗教领袖会谈，传达博物馆的理念，并获得许多支持。
Master Shin Tao, the founder of Museum of World Religion. Welcome.
这样的理念从来没有人提过，这样的崭新构想，把世界往前推进了一大步。
It works because there's an openness to the idea of sharing one of the most delicate and difficult to touch subjects in the world, religion. It's special because of the dedication of this Buddhist group, who maybe could have been the only people on the planet to have opened their arms wide enough to embrace so much diversity and celebrate it as a shared common human experience.
我希望这个博物馆能够促进各宗教的交流、团结。
After the film, I guess you might have more understanding about us. For the past 10 years, we have been work hard in promoting the world religious and peace. Besides the founder of the museum, Venerable Dharma Master Xin Dao, there is a Dharma who accompanied with him and overcome all the difficulties. During the preparation of the museum, she is our CEO of the Museum Foundation, but unfortunately she cannot make it to share her experience with us. Instead of Dharma Master Hong Chi will share her experience about the interfaith dialogue with us. Let's welcome her.
Good evening, Dharma sisters and maybe some Dharma brothers. 各位先生、女士以及各位法师们，大家晚安。Now you have seen the film because the film mostly is in Chinese. So I think I have prepared a PowerPoint so I can give you some more idea about this museum in English, and also share with you what we have done in after we opened the museum and a few months before the museum opened. So I think I will speak in English, and then after this PowerPoint, I will, on behalf of Dharma Master Xindao, in May he has given a speech in Malaysia University. It's regarding how should we do interfaith work. So it was a kind of good speech. So on behalf of our Dharma Master Xindao, I will read it out and someone will translate for me. So this museum, it takes 10 years to be built. And firstly, I would like to introduce you more about Dharma Master Xindao. He's from Burma, and he lost his parents at age of 4, so he's an orphan. And he came to Taiwan as a baby soldier at the age of 13. And when he was 25 years old, he ordained in Taiwan in this Mahayana country. But somehow he practiced not only the Mahayana, he also practiced, because he's from Burma, so he also practiced Hinayana meditation. And also, recently we practice a lot of Tibetan practice. So Dharma Master's belief is that there's only one teaching, which is Buddha's teaching. And we should not divide ourselves like we are Hinayana or we are Mahayana. No, we are son or daughter of Buddha, and we are Buddha. There's only one teaching, and that's why he dressed differently from the monk you may know. Next. This was when he was just came to Taiwan. Yes. And this is when he was just ordained at the age of 25 at the Buddha Light Mountain. And this, after he ordained, actually the next year he started to meditate in graveyard isolatedly, and for 10 years. And then after 10 years in graveyard, he found a cave, and then he lived in a cave, meditated in a cave for 2 years without eating anything, just drinking water. And that was when he was meditating in a cave. Yeah, this was the time when he was doing this fasting meditation for 2 years. And after he came out from the cave, he believed that we should practice Bodhisattva path, and we should spread out Bodhisattva spirit to the world. So, and then he made a vow, he want to build a museum of world religion, because he said if there's no harmony among religions, there won't be harmony among in the world. There won't be world peace. So he started to do the job. And the mission of the museum is to spread out the idea of respect for all faiths, tolerance for all cultures, and love for all life. This museum, in the first few years, we tried to find a place, but somehow later, there's a 2nd floor donated by a businessman, and so we are actually now located just on a department store. It's quite hard to believe a museum is located on the top of a department store, but that's where we are. Because this building is donated in the downtown Taipei. And this also, later on, we think it symbolizes that material life and spiritual life is actually together. So it's quite interesting experience. And the content of the museum, we want to be mutual. And so we find the one on the left Dr. Sullivan. He is the director of World Religious Studies Center, Harvard University. When he heard about this War Museum project, he gave us his support immediately. He led his students, maybe around 60-50 of them, to study all religions and then provide us the content for each religion. And then later we found Ralph Appapong, who is considered as one of the best museum designer in America. And Ralph also is very much moved by Dharma Master Xindao's to build this museum. So three of them worked together to build up this museum. And this is Ralph. Holocaust Museum, maybe many of you have been there, is in Washington, D.C. It's quite famous, and its idea is about tolerance. After Jewish people are killed, how we should forgive each other. And his another work is a news museum. And this is how our museum look like. We have 2 floors. So actually there's a movement. You move in 2 floors, but you won't notice it because it's quite well designed. You go into the museum, and then there's a path, and you follow the path, and then you will go through a designed path to let you experience the commonality and similarity among religions. There's a floor, it's called Journey of Life, where you can see we separate our life into 5 sections, from the birth until our death. And we display films. Instead of giving a lot of explanations, we just show people film and then let people see how similar the celebration we receive from religions, how similar they are, no matter what kind of different race, different culture, but the blessing from religion in different stage of life are actually very similar. So, and this is how it looked like, the journey of life. So you see a lot of films. It's very modern, this museum, very with a lot of multimedias and high techs. And the center of the museum, we call it Avatamsaka Wall. I think most of you understand our idea, because Avatamsaka Wall is from the Avatamsaka Sutra. In the sutra, it mentioned about the net of Indra. It says that we are like an Indra, a pearl. We are all connected, and we reflect each other. We are shining, we are so pure, we can reflect each other. So we have to remember that anger reflects anger, but love reflects love. So if we start peace from ourselves, and the others will see us in peace. And we are all connected together like the net of Indra. And now you will see some collection of our museum. We have nearly 4,000 collections. But now in the museum, we display only about 300, 400 of it. So we will change our exhibition after a period of time. There are 10 religions in our museum: Christianity, Muslim, Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, Shintoism, Hindu, and Sikh. And also there's ancient religions. Now we have Maya, ancient is Egypt, sorry, and the indigenous religion, and now we have Maya as indigenous religion. So these are just some of our collections. And so this is the museum, but it's just a hardware. And once a hardware is done, now we need to give it a soul. And the soul is what we do. It is a platform where we hope people can get together and know each other. And so, besides the museum, we have also established some works. And I would like to share with you what we have done. Is that in this last year, you must have remembered that Afghanistan, the Buddha statue was destroyed. And after the Buddha statue was destroyed, Master has determined that he is going to do something for that statue. And so this year in April, the new government of Afghanistan announced that they will rebuild the Buddha statue. So immediately we went to Hong Kong and Master successfully raised 1 million Hong Kong dollar. So we donate 1 million Hong Kong dollar to the Afghanistan government in May, and we are the first foreign donation to the government to support the rebuild of the Buddha statue. And also because of the 9/11 attack, Master believed that the conflicts between the Muslim world and the Western world maybe can be solved by a third power, and that power is called soft power. And we, the Buddhists, we are the soft power. We are the one who can help to solve the problem. So since the beginning of this year, we start to host dialogues among Buddhism and Muslim. The first one we have is in Columbia University in New York. We have a Muslim and Buddhism dialogue. And the second one was May in Malaysia. We have dialogue with Dr. Chandra. And also at the end of this month, we are going to Indonesia. We will have dialogue with Wahid, the former president of Indonesia. And in October, we're going to Paris to have another dialogue with the UNESCO and also European Buddhist and Muslim leaders. And this is about what we do. But we also have hope to extend our museum to an NGO organization, and we hope to promote the cooperation among religions and also to preserve sacred sites. And our next goal is actually to build a museum of a university of world religions. And now I would like to read the speech from Dharma Master Xin Dao. When we are reading this, we will show you the interface for some picture of it in the past 10 years, what Master Xin Dao have done. Okay.
灯光可不可以稍微亮一点？
还是
谢谢。
生活在这世间，从小到大，无论个人或团体，生命的问题有很多种。从出生后，从小面对环境的挑战；就学后，面对学业的压力；青春期面对生理与对生命存在根本的迷惑；创业后，面对事业的种种挑战；家庭沟通相处的困难；心中的念头烦恼不断，乃至于社群、族群、国家、生态、宗教、世界等种种问题，到底如何能够寻求真正圆满的解答的答案呢？
Before I start to translate this, let me say that I was just given this script a couple of minutes ago. This is in Chinese, so I will do my best. And I am also the interpreter for the conference in the daytime, if you still remember me. Okay, let me start. We all live in this world, from child to the adult. No matter we're individual or in a group, we always are facing a lot of problems in the life. After we have the birth, when we're little, we are facing a lot of the survival problems in our environment. And after we went to school, we also face a lot of pressure from our study. When we become the teenage, and we also face some physical issues as well as the survival of the life and some puzzles. Of course, after we start our business, and we face a lot of challenges in our business too, and family, communications, and some other issues coming up afterwards. So in our mind, we have a lot of afflictions and we have a lot of puzzles, and as well as in this society, the race, the nation, ecosystems, religious world, etc. We are all facing all these problems. So what is the real answer for the true perfection of the solution?
心灵的、身体的病也许有药可医，但是心灵的药究竟是什么呢？是音乐，是纵欲，是感情，还是什么？这些只要有获得的快乐，就会有结束的痛苦。我发现，只有宗教真理的追求，才应该是彻底的解决之道。
Okay, we may have disease or sicknesses in our physical body, and we may find medicine for that to cure this problem, this disease. But what is the real medicine for our spirit, and what is that? Is that music? Is that indulgence, or is that emotion? And all this, if we can obtain the happiness, then we will have the result, the answer for that. But after we obtain a lot of things, we have happiness. Once we have the end of this thing we have obtained, we also facing the suffering. So we find that only pursuing the truth in the religion, we really will have the thorough solution towards the right path.
不同的宗教有不同的道路，但是真理是唯一的。而真理的核心，或许不同的宗教有不同的名称，但是只有一个共同的面貌，就叫做爱心。
Different religions, of course, have different paths, but seems that there's only one truth. The core of the truth there's only one. It may have different names in different religions, but we all, after all, we have the common appearance, and the name of that is called love of the heart.
大家也许还记得，几年前有一部电影叫《第五元素》，讨论这个世界的组成有5种元素，就除了地、水、火、风之外，第5个元素就是爱。
Okay, maybe you still remember or recall a couple of years ago there was a movie entitled The Fifth Element. So, other than in this world, we know that the world is composed of 5 elements. Other than the earth, water, fire, and wind, the fifth element is love.
由此可见，物质世界是有差别的，有缺陷的。只有加上爱心这份珍贵的精神能量，心灵共同的语言，世间的一切才能和谐圆满。
So we can see that there's a difference in this material world, and there's defects also. So only we add love of this heart and this precious spirit energy and the spiritual common language can be harmonious, and we can reach the perfection.
爱心才是构成生命世界最重要的根本元素。爱心可以复制，可以转化，甚至于将物质转化为精神。
Heart of love composes the world and the life, which is the most important and most basic element. And this can be duplicated, it can be transformed, it can even be transformed from the material substance to the spirit.
一个真正懂得爱的真谛的人，会把他的爱心从自利的小爱转成宽广无私、全方位的大爱来利他。要从利他圆满、自利圆满到利他圆满，才能成就圆满的世界。
A person who really understands what the true love is, he will transfer this love from the self small love into a broader and selfish big love, and to be in benefit to others. So that is to say that the self perfection transform into the perfection towards others. That is what we call the attainment of the perfection.
宗教交流就是一份织网的工作，集结各宗教人士，不断地散播爱的种子。因为我们本来就生活在一个相依相存的世界，唯有互相交流，共同成就共荣，世界才有真正的和平可言。
Religious exchange and interaction is really a work of waving And we would like to collect various religious people and collectively spreading the love to various places as the seed. Because after all, we are all survive and interdependent in this same world.
在这10多年来，为了建设中国，行遍天下，做了许多宗教交流的工作。下面想举几个故事跟大家分享。
In these past decades, in order to construct this Museum of World Religions, I personally travel a lot around the world. I have done a lot of interchange and interaction work among religions. I would like to give a few examples.
第一个是波士尼亚。在过去的300-400年，东正教、天主教、犹太教、回教等各种宗教在巴尔干半岛上混合居住、和平共处。但是近代由于民族主义的兴起、政治、经济等原因，各种种族相继寻求独立，而产生激烈冲突，引发内战，彼此残杀，造成数千人丧生。
First one is Bosnia. In the last 300 or 400 years, there are a number of religions in this country, and such as the Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, Jewish, etc. And they all live together peacefully. But recently, in recent years, because of the emerging of the nationalism and also because of the factors of politics and economy, so they gradually seeking for the independence, and after that, they have lots of conflicts and have civil wars. They kill among each other. So thousands of people lost their life because of this.
宗教不一定是冲突的原因，政治可能假借了宗教之名制造纠纷，但受害的是无辜的百姓。所以现在是我们必须借着宗教交流，彼此认识，重新建立友谊，互相信赖，才能不被政治所利用。
Religious may not be the reason of this conflict, and politics always possibly try to borrow the name of the religion and try to create the dispute and war and violence. So the victims are really very suffering from this, and therefore now we must take the name of religions to understand among each other, to re-establish the friendship and the mutual trust. Therefore, we can resolve the conflict.
在波士尼亚的时候，我见到了美国大使、联合国驻波士尼亚的领袖，跑遍了南部与北部，见了各种宗教的领袖，大家都很意外。我这个和尚来这里做什么？我回答说：我来看看我能做什么。
While I was in Bosnia, I met ambassador from United States, the leader of UN in Bosnia, and also visited a lot of regions in southern part and northern part of the country. I have met a number of religious leaders. Everyone was surprised when they saw me. They say, a monk like me, what do I do in here in this country? My answer is, I come here to see what I can do.
他们对于一个佛教徒能从遥远的东方来到这个偏僻又被媒体错误报道的地方，不怕生死送来关怀，令他们感受到宗教的温暖。
They're thinking of seeing a Buddhist person coming from far away from east, come to this remote and isolated and also misunderstood by the media's country, and also not afraid of death to deliver the concern. So they are very touched. They are very touched by the warmth of the religion.
有一位记者问我说：“您真的相信世界会和平吗？”我告诉他：“当你的心是和平的，世界就是和平的。”
A journalist from the TV station asked me, do you really there will be peace in the world? I told him that if your heart is peaceful, then the world is peace.
另外一个经验是今年的3月，我们在纽约有一场演讲，在911现场有一个英国教堂外面祈祷。在这个教堂现在是救难人员生活的地方，里面的修女知道我在外面，特别开门让我进去祈祷，我成为了第一个获准进入里面的佛教人士。在911之后。
Another example and also another experience that I have is in this year. That is after the 6 months after the 9/11 event, September 11th event. I went to New York. I delivered a speech over there, and after that I visited a British National Religious Church in the neighborhood of this Ground Zero site. And this church now is resided by the rescue people. They live in here. And the sister in this church knew that I was outside and opened the door of the church, allow me to walk in and allow me to pray in there. So I was the first Buddhist person allowed to enter into this church.
而在博物馆的筹备期间，我们受到各宗教的支持。教宗送了中博一纸祝福状，达赖喇嘛送了一对他使用的法器，僧皇送了我们一尊金佛，回教联盟送了我们天坊的黑木。可见，宗教交流可能不是透过很多的对谈或者是研讨会。宗教交流最困难的永远是踏出第一步，所以我都是扮演先主动伸出手、微笑拥抱的那个人。
In the preparation of this museum, we were also accepted a lot of support from different religions. Pope John Paul II sent us a blessing paper, and His Holiness Dalai Lama also sent us a Dharma utensil, and Thailand, King of Thailand also gave us a golden Buddha. So that means that only the religious has no boundaries and can put every one of us together.
博物馆之后，我们想要做的是宗教大学。这所大学是理论与实修并重的大学。
After the religions has been completed last year, next thing we would like to do is to establish a religious university, and this is a university composed of various religions in there.
Sorry, I add up. It should be equally emphasized on the theories and practice. That's very important. Sorry about this. 所以我们希望能寻求与世界各宗教大学或知名学府的合作，商讨如何设计课程、如何交换学生等种种计划。
Therefore, that we hope to seek the cooperation from the various religious universities around the world, and also from the well-known academic institutes, and to discuss how to plan a good courses or curriculum for this.
由于时间的关系，那我们有把师父的演讲稿缩短。那希望这个世界宗教博物馆日后能有大家的支持与希望能够跟大家一起合作。
Because of the time issues, we have cut down a lot in this script. That's why I was jumping around also. Sorry about that. And indeed, we hope that through this speech, we would like to get more cooperation from all the religions.
Thank you very much. 谢谢。
Thank you. Thank you, Dharma Master Hong Shi. I believe some of you may already notice there's a special exhibition, the mystical art of Tibetan, going on in the Museum of World Religions. This special exhibition has included statues, tankas, ritual objects, and robes, specially selected by His Holiness Dalai Lama. There are 33 special collections from northern India, Japan Roslin Monastery, and 17 precious collections from the museum. And we also invited the abbot, Chamba Rinpoche, and other 6 benevolent practitioners to create Sant Mandala for this exhibition. We are pleased to have them to recite the blessing for us. Now, let's welcome Chamba Rinpoche. 现在让我们来欢迎Chamba Rinpoche 为我们做祝福的仪式，请。
Then Zane, Bame, then my waiting device. Then I answer. Dragondo Sene, Tasa. Dragondo Sene Tasa. What Travanito gave it subsidy. At Yanala Tassi.
各位在场的朋友，大家晚安。我们是来自于南印度子泵市罗斯林茶仓，里面的僧众大约有2000，那包容圆满的利实现他们的愿望。
好，刚刚好，我这前段那的刚刚的莫能要不讲哪了呢？
那么现在请一位大众，那么以我们以清净的动机、利他的心来祈福，那么祝福一切利益众生的愿望皆能够实现。
Let me explain in English. Dear friends, good evening. We are from Japan Roslin College in southern India. We are very happy to meet you tonight and hope you have a nice evening. We are now recite the Tibetan blessing. Firstly, we pray for blessing and that this place may be sacred and that this swahe may be successful and completed without hindrances. Secondly, hope that 3 jewels of Buddhism, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are present here tonight. We worship the 3 jewels of the Buddhism with these musical instruments. Thirdly, we pray for peace in the world and hope that all living creatures live in the safety and happiness, are able to consummate their purpose and achieve perfections. Now, we invite everyone to pray together in pure intent and with authentic heart. We wish that all living creatures may realize their greatest potential. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the holy blessing. They give this blessing especially for tonight.
Monks. And the next day I went to the museum and saw the show, and I was just very fascinated by it. And so I went up to the monks and I said, would you like to come to my house for tea? And they said, well, yes. So I was very surprised, and they really came. So when they came to my house for tea, I told them about the Museum of World Religions that was not yet open. But I said, would you ever consider to come to Taiwan and do a performance for us? And they said, well, you might be interested in our exhibit because we have an exhibit of sacred objects of the Dalai Lama. And this is why we came to Dallas. The exhibit was in Georgia at the time, but they showed me a catalog of the exhibit. And so I said, okay, I'll bring the exhibit, the catalog, to the opening of the museum in November, and I'll just see what they said. So I brought the catalog, and Dharma Master and the CEO, Liao Yishe, of the museum liked it very much and said, yes, we would like the exhibit. And so I called the responsibles in Georgia and said, please, could the exhibit come to Taiwan? And they said, actually, it's supposed to go back to India, so we don't really know. And then they said, but we might be able to make an exception because Taiwan is on the way to India, so we can do something. And those images of how you could be, how you really are, if you realize it, help you to see you in a different life. They teach you something about your own truth. So they are used in visualization practice, and you actually can become the deity that is depicted there. And if you look at those tankas, you have Chakrasambhava, for example, who is one of the highest yoga tantras, and you see him in embrace with a consort. We have been talking about sex and passion today, and you look at these things and you think, how is so much passion, passionate behavior possible in Buddhism? They ask you if you want to be a compassionate being and you want to do the Bodhisattva vow and you want to save sentient beings, could you do that without passion? Can you do anything without passion, without really the desire to help? So if you look at those tankas, also think about that. There is one beautiful bronze of Vajrayogini, who is a feminine deity, dancing. Also, you see other deities that are depicted. Kodokula is another deity who is just wildly dancing, enjoying herself, because she is liberated from the things that bind us down, the things that make us unhappy. So I think to go through these through the exhibit that does not have very many pieces, you are not overwhelmed when you go through them. But if you know where these pieces come from, who they belong to, who looked at them, the Dalai Lama, who used them in religious practices, some of the previous Dalai Lamas, there are also some items of the 13th Dalai Lama and so on. You see all these things in a different light. And I think especially after this conference where we talk so much about Buddhist practice and so on, to not talk anymore, but look at these things and just feel the energy that's coming from them, to me personally is very beautiful, and I feel very blessed that I had the chance before I joined this conference to be in the museum with the monks, see every day how the mandala was growing more and more, and be in the exhibit without all these people who are trying to explain something to you, just looking at the things. And I can just invite you to do this. Is the microphone working? And I must say, I must thank the monks for being here, because I felt so tremendously blessed to be in the Sakyadhita conference this year, and I would not be here without them, and they would not be here without me. So I feel quite overwhelmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hope that all of you can have the
to share what we think and what we have learned and what we are going to do with you in this summer evening. As a faithful daughter of Buddha, when I first heard that Dharma Master Sindao wanted to establish the Museum of World Religions and promote the great idea of respect all faiths and tolerance for all cultures and love for all lives. I'm so surprised by his great visions. I thought to myself, wow, what a wonderful and open-minded vision. I really feel joyous and delighted in my heart. I think it opened up myself and to the whole world, and in return, the whole world feel my participation. So, I think I recognize the wisdom of emptiness from that idea. And also, I noticed that we find a way of perceiving the emptiness in our daily life from that ideas. Yes, I think that in reality there are so many diversity of different kind of religious people, and different kind of cultures and different kind of histories in the world. So life is a beautiful gift of natural creation. If we do not open up ourselves to face the world, and how can we eliminate the differences between peoples, and how can we perceive the true value of mercy? So, as we know that all religions in today's world face a common problem.
Yeah, I think we just get started. No. Well, if you just that's okay, you know, it's already 5 minutes late. We better keep the time. I know, but you know, for conference it's better. 很高兴今天能够来这边参加这一次的研讨会。那我们时间大概也超出了，已经9点多哈。那我们现在就开始。那这一个 panel 呢，一共有4位 speaker 哈。那他们大概会做20分钟的那个报告。然后呢，最后我们会留20分钟让大家提问题哈。那第一个speaker 是帕某法师。那我们知道他是出家很久然后他目前是在印度的一个叫做Tokyo Gathering 的一个寺庙主持，那边呢听说也有一个学院。那他曾经在深山里修行很久，写过一本书叫做《Cave in the Snow》，在台湾也有翻译成中文叫做《雪洞》，大概大家也都熟悉。那我们今天很高兴请他来给我们做一个报告。好，谢谢。
So, good morning everyone. This morning I'm going to speak on something which I apologize to the lay people is mostly of interest to monastics, which is the whole question of this modern phenomena of monks and nuns who are solitary, who live alone and who do not live in communities. However, first of all, I would like to address another subject which actually has some relationship to this. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, there was a talk about why should we respect monastics? Why should lay people who are also sincerely practicing the path, why should they in particular show respect to someone who, just because they are wearing robes and have shaved their heads? So I would like to address that question first. Behind me you see an image of the Buddha. When we go into the meditation hall, we bow down to the Buddha. We prostrate to the image. Now, this is not the Buddha, but it is a representation, a symbol first of Shakyamuni Buddha, without whom none of us would be here today, and also a reflection of our own inner potential, our own Buddha nature. And we bow down and we pay respects to that. When we have Dharma books which are sutras, commentaries on sutras, we place them in a high place. We don't put them on the floor. We don't put our coffee cups on top of them. In the Buddhist tradition, when you have a Dharma book, you first touch it to your head in respect. The Dharma book is only paper and print, but it represents the second jewel, the Dharma. The Sangha. Now, one of the problems in this conference for some of us is that so many of our Sangha are in grey or in yellow. They all have shaven heads. Very difficult to tell one from the other. Oh, you'll know her. She's got a grey robe, she's wearing glasses, and she's got no hair. What does this mean? Yesterday I was talking to a group of young nuns. They were all in their early 20s, all very intelligent, all studying very hard. They could do anything with their lives. They could be academics in any field. But they have given their whole life to studying and practicing the Holy Dharma. Which means that when you look at women's magazines, just the front page, just the cover, what is it? Sex, beauty, how to stay young, what is the latest fashions? Right? This is supposed to be the main interest for women. All this, even at a young age, they have given up. No sex, no boyfriends, no movies, no fashions, no karaoke bars. Why? Because they want to give meaning to their life. They don't want to compromise. They want to give their whole life to studying and experiencing and becoming one with the Holy Dharma. I think this is worthy of respect. Now, the individual members of the Sangha may be flawed. We are all flawed. We are not enlightened beings. But they're trying. And when we bow down to a member of the Sangha, when we pay respect, we are not paying respect to the individual. We are paying respect to what they represent, which is the third jewel, the jewel of the Sangha. So each one of us who is wearing the robe represents the Sangha jewel. Do you understand? Even if a Buddha image is beautiful or unbeautiful, it doesn't matter. It represents the Buddha. So also Sangha members, even though we are all flawed, all of us have faults and problems which we are trying to work through. But still, the very fact of our robe and the vows which we have taken represents our efforts to try to actualize the Buddha path in all its purity. The Buddha, after all, left family life and became a monk. Let us not forget that. And after he became enlightened, he did not go back to his family. This is not to demean the lay life. I think it's extraordinarily more difficult to practice the Dharma as a lay person, and those who succeed have my deepest respect. But nonetheless, the philosophy, the depth and the profundity of the Buddhist philosophy and the depth and profundity of the Buddhist practice through the millennia has mostly been carried out through the Sangha, the monastic Sangha. And the monastic Sangha point as a symbol to the Arya Sangha. The third jewel is not the monastic Sangha. The third jewel is the Arya, the noble Sangha. The noble Sangha is all those who have direct experience of reality, whether they are monastics or whether they are lay. But nonetheless, those in robes are those who have completely devoted their lives without compromise to the path. And I think that personally, I mean, when I see anyone in robes, naturally respect comes to my heart. So I would just like to mention that. Now, the theme is about this question that the Vinaya, if we know the Vinaya, it is very much concerned with harmony within the community. Sangha means a community. And so therefore, traditionally, monastics live within a group. And so many of the rules are designed for how to live in harmony, actually. It's not right or wrong, but you know, how to live so that there are not disputes and not problems, and the human greed and aversion is able to be dealt with skillfully. But there is a group of precepts which comes straight after the Parajika, those precepts for which one gets expelled from the Sangha. They're called Sangha Vishesa or something, my Sanskrit, sorry. These rules come next in seniority. The rules are compiled in accordance with how important they are. Now these are the second most important rules, and if you break them, traditionally you're supposed to undertake a period of manatha, which means a period, I think, of 1 month, where you are not allowed to join in Sangha activities, and in order to be reinstated into the Sangha, you have to make confession before a group of at least 20 bhikshunis and 20 bhikshus. So we're talking about something serious here. Now, among these rules are rules saying that nuns must not walk alone into a village, they must not sleep in the same room alone, they must not cross rivers alone, and so forth. In my own nunnery in India, we have a rule which was totally accepted by the nuns, that no nun was allowed to leave the nunnery alone. She has to always have another nun with her, or a group of nuns. Now this, for our nuns coming from Tibet and the Himalayan regions, was perfectly acceptable. Because in India now, as 2,500 years ago at the time of the Buddha, women don't walk around by themselves. Why not? We all know why not. Because they will be harassed by the men. Because the man seeing a solitary woman will think she's loose and therefore up for grabs, literally. And so even today in India, except in the cities where now, because so many women are going for work, women do not travel by themselves. They do not live by themselves. They do not stay by themselves. When we first had our nunnery, at the beginning we had very few nuns, and we said we had a lot of rooms. So we said, if you like, you can stay 1 or 2 to a room, because there are lots of rooms. And the next day the nuns came and said, please, can we all stay together in 1 room? And I thought, well, now if these were Western nuns, they'd come and say, please, can we each have a room to ourselves? But the problem is that nowadays, not only among Western nuns, but also among, increasingly in Asia, there are nuns, women who become ordained, but they are not part of a community. Either they are working, they're teachers, or they are running Dharma centers. More increasingly among Westerners, certainly nuns are sent out to run Dharma centers, but they're the only nuns. At least they're the only fully ordained nun. I mean, even myself, I live in a Tibetan community, 130 monks. We have 24 nuns, but they're not bhikshuni. I'm the only bhikshuni. What to do? Because every time, every day, one is breaking one of these quite serious rules. But one is, I hope, living in other ways a very pure and flawless life, I hope. I mean, we're trying. The only fault is that through no fault of our own, we do not have a Bhikshuni Sangha at this time. So I'm not giving any solutions to this problem, but I'm stating the problem. When Western nuns and other Asians come together on the rare occasions to perform the offices of the pratimoksha, of recitation of the rules, which are supposed to be happening twice a month, but cannot happen twice a month because there's only one, and you have to have at least 4 fully ordained nuns. When we do manage to get 4 or more and come together, when we get to these rules about not, walking alone or, staying alone, I notice everybody keeps their eyes down and we don't look at each other. Because we're all breaking it. But what can we do? So, I don't know what we can do. One of my feelings is that perhaps some kind of text could be written where every day we just ask forgiveness for this. Because, it's not an ethical thing. It's not like we're harming anybody, but it is nonetheless a very serious breach of a Vinaya which we have promised to maintain. And basically that's just, it's just a point I wanted to bring up, because for all of those bhikshunis who do not live like the Taiwanese and the Koreans within a Sangha, where everything takes care of itself, for us it's really a problem. We cannot do the pratimoksha. We cannot keep the rains retreat strictly. We cannot do any of the offices which we have undertaken to maintain, simply because we are solitary. And what to do? I mean, I don't know. And if anybody has any suggestions on this, any thoughts on this, I truly would welcome it, because in the future this is going to be happening more and more. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Bye.
我们很感谢帕摩法师精彩的报告哈，他提出2个重点，一个是生俗的问题哈，在台湾也曾经被讨论过，生俗是不是应该平等，或者是俗一定要尊生，生一定要在上哈，那我们可以 用心去想一想。另外呢，他也提出他的困境哈，那他刚才也要我们帮他想想办法。等一下讨论的时候呢，请各位呢分享您的那个高见哈。好，接着呢，我们第二位是那个他的名字是 Gogan Gina Kogan， Gina Kogan， 他现在是在日本做研究工作哈，不过他是Columbia University 的那个 PhD candidate。他呢，的专长是日本佛教，他的论文是做有关比丘尼，对不对？在日本的一个比丘尼的一个菩萨戒的问题，对不对 ？Okay. Your research topic is on a bodhisattva precept.
It's on a convent in which the bodhisattva precepts were practiced.
Okay. 好，差不多哈。那我们现在就请他发表。Okay, please.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to speak about the precepts at Enshoji, which is a convent in Kyoto, Japan, which is still functioning. In the title, I've called it The Rules of the 17th Century Japanese Amadera, and Amadera is usually translated in English as convent. Tera, the establishment for men, is I translate as temple, but some people call it a monastery, and I'm never sure what to do with those terms. Okay, so here I go. In 1642, in Kyoto, Japan, a woman named Ume no Miya took the tonsure. At age 22, she had already been married and separated, and had aspired to become a nun even during her marriage. Ume no Miya, who took the religious name Bunchi, was the eldest daughter of Emperor Go-Mizuno. This ruler, already retired by the time of his daughter's tonsure, was devoted to Buddhism. Bunchi, as she now was called, was able to attend the lectures given by the monks he invited, and to visit and correspond with those of her aunts and elder relatives who were nuns. As a princess, she had the economic resources to build a small monastic establishment on the grounds of Shugakuin, one of the emperor's palaces relatively distant from the city center, and to bring with her other women as nuns. Bunchi lived from 1619 to 1697, spending 56 of her 78 years as a nun and the abbess of Enshoji, the convent she founded. Despite describing herself as having a languid character and a constitution prone to illness, she was remarkably energetic and prolific in a variety of fields. She produced Buddhist painting and sculpture, wrote both Chinese and Japanese style poetry, was an accomplished calligrapher, and often served as the head officiant in the ceremonies performed by the nuns of the imperial and aristocratic families of the time. Among Bunchi's writings are a number of works pertaining to Buddhist monastic precepts. Throughout her career, Bunchi had an abiding concern with strict practice, defined by her as strictly following both the precepts with which one was ordained, as well as supplementary rules intended to regulate the daily life of her convent. This interest developed in part through her contact with the Rinzai Zen monk Ishi Bunshu, who lived from 1608 to 1648. He had been invited to lecture at the court by Go-Mizuno, her father, and he served as Bunchi's preceptor at her ordination. He was prominent in the precept-keeping Zen movement associated with Myoshinji, a Zen temple in Kyoto that counts Enshoji as one of its branch temple convents. The nuns of Enshoji valued Bunchi's writings and carefully preserved them. Her work, and all the records of the convent, show the religious, economic, cultural, political, and day-to-day lives of her and her community during the 17th century. This talk will focus on one of Bunchi's central precept-related works, the Fuman-san no Ki, in order to investigate how Bunchi envisioned ideal practice for the Enshoji nuns and developed her thinking on the centrality of the Bodhisattva precepts of the Banmo-kyo, or Sutra of Brahma's Net. I hope that this will add to our picture of the practice of nuns of the past, because I think it is absolutely crucial to understand that Buddhist monastic precepts were used in many different ways throughout history, and that there were nuns who successfully, innovatively, and imaginatively ran communities and started traditions that we can draw on today. In Japan, there were lots of different precept traditions. The Vinaya precepts, the Bodhisattva precepts, the precepts of the esoteric or Mikyo tradition. There were also Shingi, which were the rules written for Zen establishments. And in Japan, what seemed to happen was the more rules, the better. People kept many, many different sets of precepts at the same time. They were overlapping and multiple and often probably very, very confusing. Especially since in doing my research, they don't talk about exactly how the different sets fit together. So sometimes it's confusing. Anyway, the text at hand, the Fumonsan no Ki, a record of the mountain of the Universal Gate, was written in 1688. Its title comes from the name Bunshi gave Enshoji's final location in Nara, the Fumonsan, or Universal Gate Mountain. This in turn refers to the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the Universal Gate of Bodhisattva Kanzeon, or Kanzeon Bosatsu Fumon. Bunshi was 69 when she wrote it and died 9 years later, years she spent in retirement in the sub-temple. This work is a history of Enshoji and a set of guidelines for the future, but it can also be read as an autobiography and a will. The admonishments or exhortation section of the Fumonsan no Ki can be seen as an overview of the general mission of the convent, concerning itself with the selection of abbesses, the proper rituals to be performed, and the proper text to be read. Okay, I'm going to skip a little. Bunshi begins this record with a very humble self-introduction. The text opens, "For no good reason, I entered the empty gate of Buddhism, with no ability whatsoever, a thoroughly foolish person, a bald-pated nun." This was entirely rhetorical, as was the languid character quote I mentioned earlier. She had remarkable ability and was very, very energetic. Anyway, she briefly summarizes the 16 years she spent at Enshoji in Kyoto before giving the reason for her move to Nara. Shugakuin, she says, was too close to the capital for her to practice seriously, as it was a very busy and distracting environment. She was at Shugakuin until 1656. Anyway, Bunshi then recounts the process of finding an appropriate location, informing the reader that Kasuga Danyojin, the great Kasuga deity, came to her in a dream to tell her where to search, and when her search proved ineffective, Bunshi had a second dream that directed her further. She was also assisted by her uncle Songaku, a prince who had become the abbot of a temple called Ichijoin in Nara, and who was familiar with the area, an indication that while Nara was remote from the capital, it was a religious center in its own right, and her contact with the Buddhist intellectual community continued after the move. It's also an indication of the close relationship she enjoyed with her family. The history segment of the story ends after she has set up her initial convent in Nara, and finding it too small for the community to practice effectively, moved a few miles away. Having established Enshoji in its permanent location, Bunshi proceeds to outline the foundations of Enshoji's philosophy. She writes, "Imitating a few of the rules of the Zen temple, I composed and decided on a collection of rules appropriate to a place of Zen. In accord with the one revealing of the design of the Buddhas and ancestors, I do not want to cause you to lose your human forms under your monastic robes. One by one, keeping in mind the round of birth and death and the greatness of the workings of Buddhas, day and night, making clear what has already been accomplished, practicing pure practices, training seriously, not wasting time idly, all this is sufficient for one to be called my Dharma heir. Now, I deeply revere the precept guidelines set by Kokan Kokushi, having encountered those. Inaugurating the great Bodhisattva precepts on this mountain, I want to make these standards last forever." Bunshi ends the first section of the narrative with Enshoji firmly established in its final location. Immediately thereafter, she states its most fundamental characteristic. Enshoji is a Zen temple with Zen rules. She then links this place to a cosmic pan-Buddhist past, and past and present, by calling on the great design of the Buddhas and ancestors, of the community of nuns at Enshoji in the larger Buddhist context, but indicates that their practice was in accord with this design. The statement that she does not want the nuns to lose their human forms under their robes is puzzling, but tentatively, I think one could say that she wants them to practice as full human beings, as with all of their selves, or their non-selves, as the case may be. She then outlines some of the characteristics of one who is worthy to be her heir, the first indication that we have that she was linking this document to the future. The pivot between past and future is even clearer in the next statement above. Bunshi cites the famous Zen precept text, Zen Kai Ki by Kokan Shiren, a monk of the late Kamakura period, and declares her aspiration to make the great Bodhisattva precepts last forever on her mountain. The Bodhisattva precepts were common to the different schools of Mahayana Buddhism in Japan, but here Bunshi is discussing the Zen precepts and the best form of precepts available. Kokan Shiren had said in the Zenkai Ki that these were differentiated from what he called the Shravaka precepts, or the hearer precepts, which were in the Vinaya precept tradition, because those could be broken once they were taken. But even if one broke the Bodhisattva precepts, one was still a child of the Buddha, which I'm just giving as his thinking in terms of putting the Bodhisattva precepts above the Vinaya precepts. It was just one of the strategies he used. Bunshi's work, as well as Kokan Shiren's, clearly shows a multiplicity of precept traditions in Japan. The Vinaya precepts were well known and used by some schools, but since they were not the only or even the most important set, it was acceptable to subordinate them to one's preferred tradition and even to critique them. In the Fuman-san no Ki, Bunshi follows her statement of respect for Kokan Shiren and aspiration to establish the Bodhisattva precepts permanently at Enshoji with an account of the action she took to ensure this. She writes that in 1680, she led a 35-day shusen, or repentance ritual. This period of intense practice was capped by a Bodhisattva ordination ceremony at Enshoji, to which a monk named Unsho Bhikkhu, a precept master from the area, was invited to perform the ordinations. After noting this, Bunshi says, then, in the year Jogyo 4, in the fall, in the 8th month, on the 24th day, for the first time, I inaugurated a platform for the Bodhisattva precepts and administered those precepts to the whole assembly. From now on, through all future generations of abbesses, the senior nuns and their associates will transmit this administration for the benefit of those in the future, holding and breaking the precepts, enjoining and forbidding actions, memorizing and chanting them, explaining their meaning, holding precepts in a pure way, not being dyed in the bonds of the world. I am sure that together they will achieve the highest way. I have not yet been able to find corroborating evidence for the existence of this platform, but is also mentioned in a biography of Bunshi written by her younger colleague, the monk Chimyo Join. However, this biography relied heavily on Bunshi's account of her own life, so an outside source is still necessary. For the moment, we can say that this marks the peak of Bunshi's concern with proper ordination and precept holding at Enshoji. She praised Unsho Bhikkhu's precept giving by saying that henceforth there would be no lack in the monthly fusatsu. This term indicates the periodic upasaka, or precept assembly, where monks and nuns can meet to recite their sins and confess, and laymen and women can take the 8 precepts. It can be concluded then that for Bunshi, the primacy of the Bodhisattva precepts did not preclude valuing the precept-related rituals derived from the Vinaya precepts and the early Indian monastic tradition, despite Kokan's placement of them lower in the precept hierarchy. The relation of the two traditions to her in her work is a topic that demands future research by me. That Bunshi built an ordination platform is highly significant. Firstly, it indicates that she wanted to ensure not only that the precepts were administered properly to the nuns of Enshoji, but that she wanted to ensure that future abbesses could perform the ceremony, thereby accomplishing her goal of permanently establishing the Bodhisattva precepts at Enshoji long after her own death. Bunshi had close relationships with other monks of her time who felt that precepts were important, such as Ishii, mentioned above, and Unsho, the monk who was invited to the culmination of the Shusen in 1680. He is called a bhikkhu, the Japanese transliteration of the Sanskrit term bhikshu, and was also known by the title rishi, or precept teacher. Thus, Bunshi could have left the ordination of her nuns in the hands of monks she trusted, considering that she had no problem inviting monks to grant the precepts to her nuns. But she didn't. Perhaps she feared that the monks of the future would not be as conscientious as the ones she knew. Perhaps she wanted this ritual, so central to the life of the new nuns and the community she entered, to be in the hands of the women themselves. But she was also concerned with the proper expression of hierarchical relationships, and it might also be possible to conclude that she felt that the abbess of Enshoji, whoever she might be, ought to be able to perform all the rituals the nuns of the community would have to do. With her continued good relations with the monks she knew, it is hard to imagine them being critical. It might be that Bunshi's status as princess gave her the clout to enact her vision of the nun's independent ordination. It might be that the multiplicity of precept traditions in Japan left plenty of room for innovation and individual tradition. I think it was the latter, given without having found a successor, her two preferred candidates having died in childhood. But one of her female relatives, an adult woman who was already a nun in another convent, stepped in and Enshoji survived. It is still an active convent in the south of Nara that has touched only very briefly and superficially on the role of precepts in her practice and has completely ignored the wide range of her other religious activities. Still, it seems clear that
他时间掌握得很好，我的剩下1分钟之前我要结束掉啊。我们很感谢他的那个精彩的报告哈。我们知道在就是莲华学佛园的园长他跟随小云法师呢有35年之久哈。在佛教的生教育方面的贡献呢，真是不可磨灭哈。我们非常感谢他。那现在我们就请他来报告。
首先呢，我们非常的欢迎主持人，还有国内外诸山长老、法师、朋友来华梵开佛教国际妇女会。这次大会的成功，可以说是受到华梵大学创办人小云导师福德感召。我想在这里为大家介绍我的恩师小云导师。他老人家爱国爱教，在抗战时在后方不停写画，将画卖钱捐一些给孤儿，买蚊帐买木屐，捐一些给国军买米，对国家贡献很大。当时他的老师梁寒超先生问他：“你需要我帮忙你吗？”他说：“我想到国外走走，写画，看国外教育情况，因为导师希望将来往教育方面发展。”梁寒超先生当时做外交官，导师每到一个地方，各国用最好的待遇招呼，游走28国。回香港后，他想到过去来往各国中受到很多外国朋友招待，以后有外国朋友来，他一定要好好的招待。当时香港治安不佳，他来台湾住华美园养病。中国文化学院创办人张其颖先生知道邀请他任教，法师教学认真，星期日、休假日都在工作，得到华冈永久教授资格，在文大时得到4个奖状。除了任教佛教文化研究所所长外，更兼任哲学研究所及艺术研究所课程，还指导绘制社同学做他们的导师。法师很慈悲，尽心尽力指导这些年轻人，所以许多年轻人都喜欢亲近他。导师不止文学、佛学、哲学、绘画，修行都很好，心量很广大，很有威仪。每星期2晚上带同学跑香静坐，星期6晚上在华美园带领学生念佛，每星期3指导学生佛学研讨，参加的人很多。我从来未见过出家人在大学教师，法师是第1位的。而且当时佛教不兴盛，有这样的女法师来领导知识分子，还有这么多教授、学生来学佛，内心很高兴。凡是学校有关佛教的事情， 张其隐先生多请小英法师打理。在民国58年夏天，第1届国际佛教会议在马来西亚吉隆坡开会，张其隐先生派小英法师参加，小英法师代表中华民国参加。在会议中，只有小英法师一位出家人发表论文，真是为国为教争光。以后每次开会，小英法师都会参加，是最忠实的会员，并认识很多国外朋友。因开会时，日本人说中国没有佛教，佛教只有日本才有，法师爱教心切，于是在阳明山举办国际佛教研讨会，请外国朋友来看台湾的佛教。日本人来了以后，他们十分的赞叹，并说回去要好好写文章发表，介绍台湾佛教兴盛。其中日本人长美雅人教授参加后说，日本出家众有家庭，没有像台湾出家人单身修行，在此已失传40多年，希望日本也跟台湾学习。早期我们办国际佛教教育研讨会，有圣严法师、台湾的比丘慧空法师以及其他道场都来参加。小英法师创办莲花学佛园的因缘，起源于我的恳求。当时我见法师伟大行经，认为如果不为佛教办所佛学院很可惜。我当时年轻好学，请小英法师办学教导，生活一切由我们自己负责。法师很慈悲答应了。在阳明山腰借有民事办学，最初限6个人，办得好才继续，办不好便停止。结果学生很听话，用功修行。莲花学佛园33年从不对外招生，但是他们一闻风而来的学生也有，因此越来越多。法师对学生恩威并重，严格又慈悲。法师在文大与永明寺间来往教师，指导，专为道场培养人才。而从莲园出去的学生，个个都很有成就，并让师长欢喜。法师多年的心愿是2步并重，想办一所社会学校与一所佛学院修行，找地32处，终于找到。学生家长为报师恩，特地安排在新加坡开清凉画展，卖画，以卖画的钱来买地，申请学校。历届同学及信众很辛苦募款，我还去托钵。当时法师以70多岁的年龄，日夜不停地为学校奔波计划、申请，还回莲园替同学上课，慈悲地将许多困难的事情都自己负担，默默地耕耘，常自称老牛。我们老师为中牛，学生为小牛，共同不断耕耘，终于在民国79年，华梵工学院能开办。所以最初有莲花学佛园，才有后来的华梵大学。最初学校一切规划，全是法师一人，校园景观不征请人设计，因别人设计未必适合自己的需要，却法师本人就是一位艺术家，规划出来的很有宗教艺术气氛。国际妇女会能在华梵举办，其原因是法师欢喜国外朋友来，他老人家要好好的招待， 慧空法师在20年前来台湾受戒，住莲花修佛园，其名字便是法师起的。受戒后住了半年，法师慈悲严格教他也依着法师方法行菩萨道，在国外喜马拉雅山下教书，办学发愿，办国际妇女会，也写信与法师商量。妇女会征请法师做会议主持人，法师派仁华法师去印度，后来在泰国举行，法师也带几位华梵佛学研究所研究生参与。2年前慧空